Got another good week of fights last week at UFC London. Um, had a pretty good amount of fights there. Some pretty good ones. See if I could take a look at that real quick. Alright. Yeah, it was some pretty good fights there. That's right, here it is. We had with Muhammad, who we had winning. I had Corey McKenna, she lost. I had Jack Shore winning. I had Nikita Krylov, which is a fight where, come on, it was either Nikita wins by decision or Paul Craig gets a submission. Shamil Abdurakhimov versus Sergey Pavlovich. Sergey got it done. Mike Grundy versus Makwan Amirkhani. Another fight similar to Paul Craig, where we knew Makwan could get the submission. He does. Alexander Volkov versus Tom Aspinall. Another fight with somebody getting a submission, and I'm going with the more experienced Alexander Volkov. Arnold Allen gets it done. Patty Pimblett gets it done. Gunnar Nelson gets it done. Molly McCann gets it done. Elliot Taporia gets it done. So had a had a good amount of fights right. I believe I had four wrong. So let's get on to this week. Curtis Blaydes versus Chris Daukaus. I'm gonna get to it real quick. Luis Saldana versus Bruno Souza. Difficult fight. I feel like Bruno Souza is the more polished fighter here. He's cleaner with the strikes, but really likes aggression. I cannot see why this is a fight you stay away from if you think Bruno Souza wins, because there's no point on betting on him. Yeah, his odds are decent, but Luis Saldana is going to be the one going for this win. He's going to be the aggressor here, while Bruno's going to be very defensively sound. He's going to be the one with the speed. He might be able to pick Luis Saldana apart as he makes him miss. But I'm going to be going with Luis Saldana. I just think he's just more aggressive. He's just more aggressive, and yeah. What worries me is the cardio and the speed as the fight goes on. He will be losing both of those. Luis and Bruno will maintain his consistency, his consistent speed and cardio. Um, but I'm going with Luis Saldana. I can't. I would hate to have picked Bruno and then watch him just play defense all day and lose a decision like he did in his last fight. Next fight, David Dvorak or Matheus Nicolau. Another difficult fight. Two fights back to back. Hard as shit to call. I'm going with David Dvorak. Um, once again, I just think he's going to be more aggressive. Matheus picks his moments to be aggressive. He's very patient. Fights going backwards, looks to counter very fast. They're both going to be very fast. Between the two, I do believe Matheus is the more educated defensively. But David Dvorak is just aggressive, so I think he's going to really test that defense of Matheus, and also very well rounded. Matheus is I I, I I'd like to think about that Tim Elliott fight, because Tim Elliott did push the pace on him, but then there's also the Manel Cat fight, and if Manel Cap had some more volume, which I believe David Dvorak will have, I think he would have won. So I'm going with David Dvorak. Jennifer Maya versus Manon Fiorot. I am going with Manon Fiorot. I mean, Jennifer Maya has basically lost to a similar style in Kayla Chukagian. I think Fiorot is just that much more that she is more vicious than Caitlyn. Jennifer Maya is going to have to cut distance, get into the pocket, somehow get this to the ground. I believe that's where her best shot is at. Um, so I think she just gets picked apart from the outside and maybe even controlled at some point. But I got Manon Farrell here for the W. Alias Kahab Kizriev versus Dennis Tuliolin. I'm going with Alias Kahab. Just mainly out of the he's a really good wrestler, good good punches, just a bright prospect coming from Russia. Dennis is he's he looked like a mainly a striker. And I've just seen a match of his where he got dominated grappling, just dominated with the wrestling, just held down pretty much the entire fight. And so I'm going with Elias Kahab here to basically do the same. Batgirl Dana versus Chris Gutierrez. I'm gonna be another difficult fight here. This fight, it's hard. It's hard as shit. I want to pick Dana because he's just as fast as Chris. His footwork is just as good as Chris's. Doesn't switch stances like Chris does. Isn't doesn't have the same variety in strikes as Chris does. Dana is mainly a boxer, so he will try to crowd pressure Chris, take away his kicks. But Chris is good. He's fought some decent caliber opponents already in the UFC. This is Dana's biggest test. Will he live up to the test? I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say that the power and the pressure eventually works starts to wear on Chris, and we'll see some big moments out of Dana to pull off a decision win. I'll go with a decision win. Sarah McMahon versus Carol Rosa. I'm picking Carol Rosa as she is a younger prospect here. Sarah McMahon is good. But she just seems like a bit of a specialist. She just it doesn't seem like the rest of her game ever really caught up to her wrestling. And Carosa is probably more well rounded at this point. Obviously, the wrestling probably isn't at the same level as Sarah McMahon's, but Carol Rosa is the more well rounded fighter here with the strikes and the grappling. So I'm picking Carol Rosa. But it feels like a trap. Everybody's picking Carol, so I'm surprised she's not a -1,000. Neil Magny versus Max Griffin, another difficult fight. I want to pick Max Griffin. He's got the power edge. He's surging right now. So is Neil Magny. And he really just goes for it, while Neil Magny just kind of plays a little safe sometimes. Doesn't necessarily have the wrestling to take the fight to the ground, but similar to Alexei, he'll body clench, backpack his opponent, drag him to the floor, work from there. So I'm gonna be picking Neil Magny. I think he'll have the speed advantage over Max Griffin, the obvious reach advantage, and I've seen Max Griffin get held down by Alex Oliveira, Cowboy Alex Oliveira. So I believe that if it's at any point it hits the mat, Neil Magny should have the ability to control Max Griffin and land some shots. So I'm picking Neil Magny. Neil Magny. He didn't even want to say it. Man. Mark Diakese versus Vyacheslav Orshev. We just seen Vyacheslav not too long ago. Um, I'm going to. This is another difficult fight. I'm gonna be picking Vyacheslav though. I did see the fight with Vyacheslav where he gets held down for a bit by William Starks, but in that fight, he's also getting up. He's also working to get up. Maybe there is some moments where he lays down for a little bit too much. He gives himself a moment to rest, but he's getting up. He's getting up. That was a split decision loss. Um, I think Borshev could have won. I think he gets up from these takedowns that Mark Diakase is going to be throwing at him, and I think he'll have the volume. He'll have the bigger moments, the bigger punches. Eventually, I think Mark Diakase maybe takes a bad level change. He gets stuffed, is left out in the open for a counter, and it's all downhill from there for Mark Diakase. So I like Vyacheslav Borshev here. Mark Diakase is a solid dog in this card. So far, the solid dogs that I see that are worth taking a shot at are probably Matez Nicolau so far, Chris Gutierrez, Max Griffin, Mark Diakase. But I obviously am picking against those names. But those are some fighters we're taking a shot at. We got 10 minutes before the fight for for the fight start. So I'm picking Vyacheslav Borshev. Alexei Olenek versus Ilir Latifi. I'm going to be picking Ilir Latifi. I think he'll be able to out wrestle Olenek. Olenek though just goes for it. This is another fighter that really just goes for it. Um, Fights with nothing to lose, and even though he's got everything to lose, like this fight, so I'm gonna be picking Ilir Latifi. I think he out wrestles Alexei Olenek, holds him down, and out cardios him. I think he'll have the better cardio towards the end of the fight, as Alexei will potentially attempt to push the pace. This is a scary fight for sure, because both of these guys aren't very good towards the end of their career, so it's a shit show. But I will be picking. Damn, I want to pick Alexei, but I'm going with Alir. Plus, it was my one of my best friends, Alexei's birthday yesterday, so I just kind of want to pick it. Or is it today? It's today. Should I pick out of pure principle? Because it's my friend Alexei's birthday. We going with Alexei. Askar Askarov versus Kai Kara France. I will be picking Askar Askarov. I think his cardio and he'll be more consistent throughout the whole fight. He's going to make Kai Kara become a defensive fighter. If he'll forget about his offense, he'll become one dimensional. Looking for his bomb to land. I think Askar Askarov is going to be the more well-rounded fighter here, the more dominant, aggressive, offensive, well-rounded fighter here. So I'm going with Askar Askarov. Matt Brown versus Brian Barbarena. I'm going to be. I'm leaning with Brian Barbarena. Both of these fighters are similar, with Brian having similar power to Matt Brown. I think Brian has more volume. They both have fought very good fighters in their respective careers, but Brian Barberena, I like his fight against Vicente Luque. I think he shows a lot in that fight and why he's gonna beat Matt Brown in this one. He's just got the volume, the speed advantage, and the youth. And Brian Barberena is coming back from some surgeries, not recently, but maybe his third or fourth fight since those surgeries. So I just think he's falling into a groove here. I wish he would have knocked out Jason Witt. That would make me feel a little bit more secure in picking Brian. But I'm sticking with Brian Barberena here. Joanne Wood versus Alexa Grosso, another fight that I see similar to the Batgirl Dana versus Chris Gutierrez. We got a fighter who's good with their hands, good with the striking. Two fighters good with the striking, one good with the hands, and one okay with the hands and pretty good feet. Pretty good leg kicks. And that's Joanne Wood here. She's similar to Chris Gutierrez. Maybe not as vicious kicks, but she still, was going to be playing that long range game, trying to keep Alexa at bay while Alexa's going to be trying to crowd her and use her boxing, clench her up, hold her up against the fence, which is why I'm picking Alexa Grosso. I think she'll be able to be the mixed martial artist in this fight instead of it being the point karate kickboxing event that Joanne wants it to be. So I'm going with Alexa Grosso here. Curtis Blaydes versus Chris Daukaus. I'm going with Curtis Blaydes. I just think the wrestling is going to be too much for Chris Daukaus. The power is just it's got this massive dude just coming at him the whole fight. So I'm going with Curtis Blaydes here. I think he could even get the finish, as that's what he aims to do. He aims to take his opponents down and maul them, get the submission, land some ground and pound. I just I like Curtis Blaydes to take the win here, and he's got good cardio. So I got Luis Saldana, David Dvorak, Manon Ferro, Elias Gahab, Kizriev, Batgirl Dana, Kirill Rosa, Neil Magny, Vyacheslav Aborshev. Ah, we're really gonna be picking Alexei here. Uh, I'm gonna go with Ilir Latifi just because he's fought better strikers than Alexei. Ilir Latifi, Askar Askarov, Brian Barbarena, Alexa Grosso, and Curtis Blaydes. One last time: Curtis Blaydes, Alexa Grosso, Brian Barbarena, Askar Askarov, Ilir Latifi, Vyacheslav Borshev, Neil Magny, Carol Rosa, Batgirl Dana, Alishka Kizriev, Manon Ferro, David Dvorak, and Luis Saldana. Those are my picks. Let's get it. I'm Gambino. This is Champ Focus. Let's go get that bag, man.